We're at one of the ILM model shops. We're going to go inside and take a look at some of the stuff from Planet of the Apes. Okay, this is the Oberon space station, and the complete model was about 13.5 feet tall from top to bottom. Here we've got the bottom off. This is how we shot it for some of the shots, just so we could get the camera closer to it and it didn't have to be so far up in the air. It's rigged with 2 motion control mounts. It's got internal lighting. It's got fluorescent and incandescent lights. And this model held up for some fairly close shots. We had some close shots that were very close to this hand as the pod flew out beneath this, so we got very tight on this. We also built a miniature that's a close-up section of this, because when the pod leaves, he comes out from these little doorways that are inside the arm. This is the one area that we did in close-up, and this has got its backlit in here, and they did some beauty lighting from the back, and you see Mark Wahlberg's pod come out like this as it takes off.
In many movies, science fiction is sort of a jump from reality, per se. So we're not always doing what's real in space or what we know the scientists tell us to be real. We're evolving and developing a shot to what looks right. And for what is in the movie, the electromagnetic storm, basically the premise behind that storm is that it's disturbing the sound waves and all the communication on Earth. So that is kind of the backbone of these tsunamis that Tim has coined that come flashing and crashing out of the electromagnetic storm. What I'm showing here is just some simple wireframe representations of the early testing that we did with the spheres and trying to figure out how they would move in relationship to each other. He kept talking about this idea of sonic booms. He liked that, and he kept throwing this emotional sound with it. So we tried to envision what would this sort of space electrical energy be if we had this sonic boom with it. So we ended up working and developed this whole idea of patterns of rings that were sort of roiling and developing over each other. Okay, so the first pass you're seeing here is what I would call the center core, or the most gaseous part of it in the element here. And unlike the spheres, this is rendered very soft and glowy with a lot of high energy. This next element is our most gaseous element, which is sort of blurred and softened and then put over the top of the tsunami. This is what we call the core element, which have the most structure. And finally, I wanted to show the background plate that we composite the tsunami behind for the shot. Is sometimes when you get space movies, you've got spaceships and you know what they are, and they're shooting lasers and they're just flying through space. This tsunami, Tim didn't have an image that he wanted. It was more, let's come up and show him things. So it gave us an opportunity, gave me a good opportunity to sort of go in there and sort of bring my own aesthetic to the project, and I thought that was very exciting.
So B, 34B, we're going to be looking up into our ceiling.
Well, we might be farther back.
Might even be underground. Why wouldn't you even want to be all the way back here?
Because you're looking up at it coming down. You're up at a 60-degree angle.
I think he's on the backside gathering up trees. What do you need?
If you ever have to build a miniature bog, you can use shiitake mushrooms, and you can use self-clumping kitty litter in the pond. It really works well. It looks like bacteria. And it smells good, too.
Is that bounce free?
Yes.
You want this in here?
Yeah, if you could just hold it. Now, where did we decide the hit point was?
Well, we have.
We moved all up to us?
That's up to us.
The thing that would be my worst nightmare is if it hits like this, it just goes.
Oh,
So shape like this should actually hit and fall on its side. So all we're talking about really, though, is the hit position. Is it here, is it back there?
Yeah.
So we just push it back a little bit further, and if we take the wings off, we can get the camera in any closer. Because, so it's more of a tilt and less of a pan.
Well, here, Marty, I'm willing to look at just a lock off of it coming in. The point I want to get across in this shot is that it's descending.
Right.
The thing is coming down.
Right.
And that may come across in a locked off shot, and then we can add a little bit of post move to it later.
Jack, just slowly, push it in. So see, look at that. Oh, we're going down.
No question about it.
Boom. See, that's it right there. Try that again.
It's not much of a tilt. but it's telling the story.
All right, standing by, please.
Someone record on and forward.
Is there anybody underneath the deck? All right, everybody's clear. Roll video, please. Ready, and action. Still way down there. And cut.
What happened is that he hit down here, didn't he?
Back to one.
Dog somewhere.
Yeah, maybe a little bit before the old one, and it's bouncing like crazy.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
Should we try to just go back to our other?
You want to just do the original move and see what that does?
Yeah.
This is the last one?
Hey, Robbie. Let's just reset it to yesterday's move.
Well, my name is Grady Kofer, and I'm a digital compositor here at Industrial Light and Magic. So if you'd follow me, we'll go to the bay. We'll be entering the saber department. It's kind of telegraphed by the dragon-heart dragon head down the hallway. So in this way. This is the actual live-action plate. So this is the original plate. And the matte painting then was delivered here, and we combined the two. This is the new matte painted sky, and then it's kind of made this as a little kind of fractal fire flame, and we added little flickery fires, and of course a little bit of haze of dust in the foreground to kind of sell it. And here's your shot.
This one over here, this is Ape City. And this was the model that we used for the medium to long shots where you saw the whole city in the distance. So it's built big enough so the detail will hold up for that kind of thing. But then for close-up work, we needed some shots where we're actually in the city looking out. And they had a full-size set in Los Angeles at Sony. But for our shots, we built these larger scale models and built them in force perspective so that we could kind of compress the set and get the whole city in the shot. That back there, that is Charlton Heston's house, or it's Thade's father's house. We called it Chuck's house. When we were shooting this model, we took it outdoors because it was more expedient to go out and shoot with real trees in the background. So we found a location near ILM where we could go outside, we could set it up, and in the far background we had huge real trees. In the mid-ground we had trees that were left over from our Jungle Crash set. And then in the foreground we had the smaller trees that are here on the model. And then they'll probably go in later and post and add some real trees also that they can comp in around the building to give it scale for that shot as well.
This shot takes place in an epic battle sequence in the desert. And to start with, we had the original backplate. And here are apes responding to kind of a dummy explosion in the rocket booster of this ship. So one of the first things we did, we replaced the sky. So here's the original sky. You can see we added a kind of a more dramatic sky, kind of darker and gloomier, and also map painters kind of put in a new horizon of the desert out there, some new mountains. And as you can see, we also increased the number of apes. We've composited in a multitude of apes. We've been populating shots with apes. Then here's an explosion element that they shot up here. So that was then composited into this rocket booster. And a large part of the task of this shot was choreographing the kind of trajectories of these flying apes. So we had this stunt of an ape writhing and on fire, some great performance, a lot of kind of spinning and rotating and clawing. So we took that element and started replicating it. Here are some motion paths. So we started kind of animating their trajectories. We gave them a little bit of rotation. Here it is. We've given them some depth here, so I'm kind of rotating around them in 3 dimensions. So to seal the deal, we added huge kind of glowing flare to kind of flash out and fog out the frame. Nice camera shape to enhance the shock wave. And the end result is this. Total ape carnage.
This was all done in clay, and then the clay was We did a variety of different molds, so rubber molds and plaster molds for various things. And then this was cast in fiberglass, and the chair was actually built out of wood, and then our finishers came in and gave it a faux marble paint job. This is one of two variations that we did, and the first one was one that was based on a sculpt that we got that came up from LA. And it was slightly different from the actual Lincoln Memorial. There were subtle differences to it in terms of the posture and the size of the chair and that sort of thing. And Tim Burton and Rick Heinrichs came and looked at that. They weren't quite happy with it, and they wanted to make some adjustments, and we leaned more towards the actual Lincoln sculpture, with the exception of the head, the hands, and the feet. One of the things we did here with the hands and with the head, we were trying to preserve the image that this was Lincoln, because the first shot you see this in, it's from over the shoulder like this. You see Mark Wahlberg walk in towards it, and we're looking here, and as far as everyone knows, this is the Lincoln Memorial. So the hand, we left very smooth on the top, so that it preserves the illusion that it's a human hand. But from the front side, you can look at all the texturing and stuff. You're definitely not looking at human hands or human feet, that sort of thing. Just while we were working on this, I had gone to DC, and while I was there, I went to the Lincoln Memorial and started taking pictures. And in the midst of being there, I got a phone call. And this was when they wanted to make the changes and make it look like the original Lincoln statue. So I happened to be there. I had a video camera, a still camera, and a color swatch book, and my cell phone. And I was calling back to ILM, talking to the sculptors and saying, "What do you want to see?" And specifically shooting while I'm on the phone. We want to see the chin, zooming in on the chin, and taking the color swatch book back to the wall, and here it is. It's a 302U, whatever it is. Just giving them the exact information. And I shot all these stills and things, and lo and behold, we came back. We used all of it. So it was very fortuitous. I just happened to be in Washington at that point.
So this is here's a set piece with Mark Wahlberg's character. So he's supposed to be standing in front of the Lincoln Memorial. So here's a still digital matte painting, extending it out. But the challenge on this shot, of course, is all of the interactive light, because you have all of these sirens flashing different lights on columns and on the steps. So what we had to do was connect areas and track colors in all of these different areas in the actual kind of live action plate, which is here, and have the matte painting reflect all of that same kind of color interplay. So I'm actually constantly color correcting it to match certain areas to other areas. And then, of course, all of the foreground characters have to be rotoed back onto the scene. And then, of course, if you're interested, this is the last shot in the movie. So here's the reverse of that same shot. The supervisor, Bill George, anytime I look at this shot, would say, "You are so busted." So this is the "You are so busted" shot. So you have these are 3D computer-generated helicopters with 3D search beams, and some great kind of practical running crowds that we composited into the pools of light. I'll show you some of these elements. There's an interesting kind of siren element, but we did with that, we kind of took those little siren pieces and animated a whole bunch of just siren lights in the background, so you get a sense of kind of this onslaught of police cars, and composited in tons of people to kind of fill in the gaps. Tim definitely wanted to fill all the holes, so there are tons of masses of crowds.